G'day, Rowan from Sundew here with another in our series on hand dusters or puffers. If you have a look at the puffer there and the way I've got it held in my hand, it's a simple fact of actually depressing that bulb with your thumb to get the correct amount of air dust flow out of the puffer. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but that's the way to hold it. With sort of resting in the palm of your hand there, and the thumb does all of the work. So as I've mentioned in previous videos, the puffer is reliant upon the little hole in the brass tube there, but that is adjustable, and you need to just have a bit of a look at that, play around with it for yourself to get that adjusted to the right depth, and it all does depend upon how much dust that you've got in the puffer itself. You never want to fill over that hole, you just want the air to be rushing down there and pulling out some of the dust with it. So here's an example of how we might use this puffer underneath a fridge in situ, and so it's really very simple, a few quick puffs to get dust moving. You can barely even see it coming out of the puffer there. But why are we doing it? Why would you do that to a fridge in situ? What you need to do is get to the back of the fridge. You've got to have a look at things, and so what we have here, the different componentry where we have a problem from cockroaches, often will be where it's warm. So this air tank here heats up because we've got compressed air going in there creating heat, and so underneath that, where the little feet are, cockroaches love to get, and it's beautiful and warm. And then you've got off to the side this little unit that houses some of the electrics, etc. There's quite a gap there, and it gets warm as well. Up in the back here, there's all sorts of stuff sitting around, and often moisture, and you can see some droppings from some sort of thing there, but moisture will gather there. So you've got moisture and heat, and those little feet are perfect places for the cockroaches to get. And as I said, that gap there between the actual compressor bowl and that unit, terrible place for often German cockroaches. So it's a good spot to be able to get some dust in. But what you've got to do is get them to those areas. So when I showed you earlier using some dust under the front of the fridge, what was that for? It's not going to get to those areas that you need. So you need to be a bit more specific. You've got to pull the fridge out. Now, there are lots of other areas around the fridge itself that I'll go into in a moment. But once you've got the fridge out, you need to just get your bulb duster, and it's always a good idea to actually rest the end of that puffer on your finger. It's very difficult. You can see them trying to actually get the nozzle in under, but when you don't have your fingers holding it like that, so you just need to be able to sit it on your finger and then slightly depress your thumb. You'll find that dust flows nicely, and through all this you can barely see any dust coming out of that puffer, and that's the way it should be. So that whole area there, often when people have got that up against a wall, because it's a cooling element, it's essentially a heat sink, and so it's plenty of heat there for cockroaches. So you find that cockroaches will sit between the wall and that area, and so when you pull it out, you'll often find cockroaches in and around all of the wire parts there, the little tubing areas. That little hole, every fridge has one of those where cables go in. You need to make sure that you pay attention to that type of thing. You need very little dust. It's just in the right places. I mean, look, this one's not too bad, this corner. It doesn't sit too far off the backing, but on the other side there you can see a gap there. Now so you need to get some dust in there, and that gap goes all the way down. These types of gaps are perfect for a thigmotactic insect like cockroaches, where they just like to get in, be touched on both sides. It's the perfect spot for them, so you need to make sure that you cover all of these types of areas. Again, you only need very little dust, just in the right places. And this is where inspection is your biggest friend, particularly with German cockroaches. And so around a fridge like this, that's not an exhaustive list of where you need to treat. You see another gap there. And occasionally you might need to treat around the seal of the fridge and around the little clip on top of the hinge and those sort of things, sometimes around the feet. But yeah, it's all about inspection, as it is here. And remember, if you were to use dust in a cupboard like this, then you would need to be removing the kettle, the toaster, and those sort of things. And to be honest, I like to remove that myself, just so I can see what's going on. Often there'll be cockroaches in them. You can see some of the gaps, cracks, crevices here. That's the notorious one between the actual stone bench top there and the lip of the sink, and that will go right around. Then we've got another one which is up there with the bit of melamine under the stone. And there's certainly gaps and cracks and crevices everywhere we look here. And as I said, inspection is what you need to do, particularly with German cockroaches, but really with all insects. You need to find out where they are, what they're doing. Now, if you were to find that there were German cockroaches in these gaps, then maybe you would dust, and you need to actually get that nozzle right up in there and use a tiny amount of product. It really only takes a tiny amount. The last thing you want is, with vibration, that being able to drop down over time onto whatever it is that people have stored there under it. As we go here, just keep looking at the different cracks and crevices, big gaps, small gaps. It's a bit of a shocker of a kitchen, this one. All those timber boards, most of them are sealed, but some of them aren't. Doesn't actually have a German cockroach problem, but it's worth having a look. Now, taking out the top drawer is often a good idea. Look at that big gap up there. And we can take out the other drawers if necessary. See, again, there's that lip which goes right around the entire sink. And so what you'll find is that food gets stuck under that lip up on top here, right around the back. There's often water splashes on the back and down and underneath, so the cockroaches have everything they need. Now, if I were to treat above this, then I'd be pulling those drawers out, because the last thing you want is the possibility of any contamination onto anything that's in the drawers. This kitchen actually is a very good candidate for using gel rather than a dust, but if you needed to, this is just to give you the general idea of what you would be doing with dust in the kitchen. So you can see there's more cracks and crevices in there that you might use a dust on. The whole idea is to be able to find all of the German cockroaches, all of the cracks and crevices. You need to be able to get right into the back and yeah, just make sure that you've seen all the areas. If you've got a torch and you're in there looking at these spots, then you're going to see where the cockroaches are, and when you see where they are, when you know where they are, then treating becomes a whole lot easier. There's all sorts of things that you'll find in kitchen cupboards, and look at this for a ripper of a hole. Nice access point for probably rodents and everything else on earth. So you may need to treat under there. With Germans, that's going to be a difficult one. You know, it's a void. If there were German cockroaches around, then yeah, potentially they'd be under there, but difficult spot to treat. So some dust could be very handy to flush them in that situation. So remember, this is not an exhaustive list of how to dust, but merely a quick overview of make sure you get into the cracks and crevices, inspect, use a torch, get on your knees, you've got to get down and look at it, and it will all come together as a positive job when you really have looked at everything as a whole. Thanks very much for watching. Catch you next time.